Hey artists! Miss Kubera here to introduce your next art project. And we are going to talk about surrealism, and we are going to make a surreal collage, which is going to be very cool. So we touched on surrealism with my 8th graders right at the beginning of the year. Most of you will recognize the project where we do that surreal outer space where we're kind of like creating the room and we have that really cool outer space look. And it's just filled with kind of like silly things. So that is surrealism, and we're gonna be kind of jumping off of that project and creating a full surreal collage. But before we jump into materials and everything like that, I just wanna talk about surrealism a little bit. I wish I had my smart board so we could look at pictures while I'm talking, but I'm just gonna have to show some pictures after, and I'm going to link a Google Slides with more information and different artists, imagery, and stuff like that. I do have a painting done by my niece behind me. My niece Emmy painted that. She's in kindergarten, and it's off of Vincent van Gogh's Flowers, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things. So I like having that in my background at least. All right, so back to surrealism. Surrealism is an artistic movement that started in the 1920s, mainly over in Europe, and then trickled into the United States. And the main idea behind surrealism is creating things that are not based in reality. They are based things that would happen up in your dreams and up in your head. So think about if you have a dream and you wake up and you try to explain your dream, or you try to go back and think about it and you're like, okay, like there's some real things in it, right? You're like, okay, like, yeah, I was like at the beach and like, you know, I'm hanging out and everything was fine, but then I like got in the water, and as I was swimming under the water turned purple, and then the birds were swimming in the water and the fish were flying in the sky. And so there's like realistic elements, but the way that they're put together is based in fantasy and based in non-reality, basically. So that's what I think is kind of fun about it, and quirky and kind of unique. So I personally really like surrealism. I think it's really fun, and I love creating surreal collages, and I hope you will have fun doing that too. Prominent surreal artists are Salvador Dali, who we know that created really cool melting clocks, and really famous surreal paintings, which I'm going to put some images that you can look at of his work. Merritt Oppenheim is a female surreal artist who did some really neat things, and Rene Magritte is also a popular one. He's the one that did like the guy in like a suit coat and bowler hat, but then there's an apple in front of his face. So he does things that, you know, bend that reality as well. So materials you will need for this project, really simple, and I want you to just start collecting them, some things you can find around the house. What I like to do is like collect things throughout the week and kind of put things in a big pile, and then sit down and start to see like what's gonna like speak to me and figure out what I can make based off what I've collected. But the most important things you're gonna need are something that you're gonna glue everything down to. So you need like a piece of paper, you know, any size paper you have. I'm just gonna use regular white paper. If you don't have paper, you could also use the inside of a cereal box. Like if you cut the flaps off the cereal box and just use the inside, that's nice sturdy cardboard. This background is totally gonna be covered up, so it can really be anything. And then you just wanna start, you're also gonna need scissors, glue stick or tape, something just to bind your collage together, and then imagery. So I've collected like some like newspaper. These are great pictures of like fruit and fun stuff like that. I have some more newspaper, and then, you know, you can collect junk mail, magazines, sports magazines, gardening magazines, you know, any type of stuff you have around the house. I also have some of these really old National Geographics, which are really fun. My parents have, I mean, a huge, huge collection of old National Geographics. I love looking through these. Like this one right here is really cool. You know, just like flipping through and this guy's flying off this mountain, skiing off this mountain. So start collecting all your materials and then put everything in a pile and just kind of start flipping through, see what speaks to you. I'm going to change the direction of this film, so I'm going to have it just on my hands now, and you can kind of see how I'm putting everything together. But things you want to think about as you're starting to flip through your imagery, think about a setting. Where do you want your surreal collage to take place? And sometimes it's better to just start flipping through your pictures and figuring out a setting that way, as opposed to having something in your head. So like if you're like, okay, I know I want my setting to be outer space, but you're not really finding any outer space type images, then that's going to be tough. So just kind of be open to a setting based off images you have, but think about, you know, a desert, think about a rainforest, think about a beach, think about outer space, think about, you know, a city, tons of cool settings. And then you are going to need a focal point, something that's like drawing your eye in and that is starting to tell the story of your collage. So think about these things as you're starting to collect and flip through your images, and I'm going to show you what I come up with. All right, so I have all my materials. I have my background paper, a pair of scissors, a glue stick, and then I cut out a ton of different pages of pictures, and I got this from a Chex box, just some inspiration. I'm not sure if I'm gonna end up using all of it, but I feel like it's better to have more than not enough. So where I want to start is I'm going to start finding, I want to start with my background. So I think I know I want to do like a plain sky background. I found a lot of blues and different kinds of skies that I started cutting out. And I'm just going to come in and do it a little bit neater now. So I'm going to start to cut off some of my edges, get rid of my scraps. And basically what I'm gonna do is just start laying everything down before I glue to kind of get a feel for everything. And it's okay if it's not perfectly to the edge just yet, because I'm gonna go back in and end up trimming the edges. So let's see, I'm gonna start to arrange. And this I think is like the fun part, when you start to kind of like pull everything together. So I'm looking at this so far from my background, and like I said, it's okay if you have some pieces kind of hanging off, because we're just going to end up cutting it down to whatever fits. This I thought was really cool. This is the Easter Islands rock guys. So I'm going to trim this. Oh, but this is what I wanted to show you. Look at the difference if I were to just kind of like rough cut, or we say bubble cut, and then if I set him down, it's okay, but look at the difference when I come in and cut really closely and neatly. And this is something we talked about with 8th graders with that project. Remember when we were cutting out our magazine pictures, cutting it out really closely, and it just really enhances it. And really that goes for any project. You always just kind of want to do your best craftsmanship because it ties it together and makes it look more intentional and not like you're just slapping some pictures on top of each other. Let's see, I'm not sure if I'm going to end up keeping these rocks below him at his feet, but I might start here. But you see how that makes such a difference? Now it looks much, much more intentional. And let's see, I have kind of deciding between, oh, you know what I thought would be cool? I found this rock climber, and I thought if I cut him out and put him on this guy, that would be kind of funny. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by bubble cutting. And then, and this actually is even like really cool textured rock. I might even put this like in my sky. That looks kind of cool. Kind of like that. Yeah, I might hang on to that. I like these colors. I don't know, we'll see. Okay. So like I said, right now I'm just laying everything down. I'm not gluing yet because I'm still making decisions on where everything's gonna go. Okay, let's check that out. I think I'm gonna have him hanging on top like that. So I have my background. This guy is pretty much my focal point right now. He's my main, the main thing you're gonna look at when you're looking at this piece. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to come in and I think I'm gonna add some of these mountains to fill in this area. And then I really liked, I started to cut out these flowers. I think I might bring those flowers on top of that and start layering. So I'm gonna keep cutting and keep playing around with it. And I'm gonna do a time lapse and you'll be able to see how it all comes together. But basically I'm just gonna kind of keep cutting, playing around with things, gluing, arranging, and then when I'm done, I'm going to just cut it to the size of my actual collage. So you can see I still have all this like white space on the side. I'm just not gonna fill in that area because it's just gonna be a smaller piece. So your collage does not have to fit the whole page. It can fit the whole page, but this is mainly just a background sheet to keep all my collage pieces together. So the size can be adjusted. So don't worry about filling the whole space. It can end up being a smaller collage. So I'm gonna time lapse it and then we'll talk when I get my collage put together. Okay, so this is my surreal collage, and the components that make it surreal is the fact obviously, that we're juxtapositioning, meaning taking two things that would normally not be together and putting them together. In this case, I did some wintry mountains behind some wildflowers. And then, of course, my focal point, the main, the thing that catches your eye on the piece is the big rock formation that I have my little rock climber guy climbing on. And then I have a hot air balloon flying through. So you can get really, you know, crazy and out there and silly with it, or it can kind of, you know, just dance with reality in a different way. It's totally up to you. And that's what's really fun about this. You can kind of create anything that like speaks to you or interests you with the stuff that you have around your house. And I know the hyperlapse is kind of quick, but what I did was trimmed up the back. So any of the sheets that were hanging off the edge, I trimmed, and then I cut the paper just to fit this. So that's something to think about too. You don't have to fill your whole page. It can end up being, you know, a smaller size, which I think is cool. So look around the house, find some cool images, stuff that you're interested in, and then one of the most important things with this is your craftsmanship. So really be neat with that cutting, be neat with your gluing and layering, and that's what's going to elevate your project and make it look, like we said, more intentional and not like you're just kind of like slapping stuff on top of it, but the fact that you really thought about the composition, thought about what would make a cool background, how can I put these images together and make it a cohesive piece. So I can't wait to see what you come up with. I'm super excited. You have a lot of time to work on this, so take your time. Don't rush through it because this will be a more, you know, time-consuming project. But I have the utmost faith in all of you. I know they're going to be amazing, and I can't wait to see.